My topic today is making informed choices. It's been a very hectic start of the summer with the 23 states overturning Roe versus Wade. And I know it has certain people on edge because now, if they could overturn a bill that's been put in place for over 50 years, no telling what else Congress could overturn. I've said this before that it doesn't make sense to put our total trust into people in Congress and also those that have a higher platform like celebrities and politicians, or even depending solely on voting. There's some that moving forward they might not vote due to the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and there's some that might even vote, or those that are not consistent with voting. I'm going to start off with the females before I get to the males. Only 23 states are restricting abortion. Some you can't go past 6 weeks, and there's some that even if you're 2 weeks pregnant, you won't be able to get an abortion. With that being said, and I'm going to exclude victims of rape, try to be mindful of who you engage with when you're having intercourse. Use protection. If you decide not to use protection, are the males, because I've heard stories of males don't like the feeling of a condom. That you don't need to be having sex. And of course the male is going to say he doesn't like the feeling of the condom, because at the end of the day, majority of men think about themselves when it comes to sex. They get pleasure in it, and they come and then they're pleased. But my issue with abortion is you have some women that will get pregnant 2 or more times and then run to the clinic. Granted, everybody's not prepared to be a parent, but after the first abortion, I would have taken birth control or preventive measures, not run back and forth to the clinic like it's fun, because it's not. Keep in mind that when you do a abortion procedure, there's two. There's one where you could take the pill, and the abortion process starts once you take that first pill, and then you finish it with 1 or 2 pills. And then there's one where you're lying on a medical table. I've read that that consists of a vacuum or a clamp. I'm not sure, because things have changed over the years. I never did an abortion, but I've heard people that done it. After the first abortion, birth control should have been taken, or condoms. When you have repeated abortions, sometimes one, females don't realize that that procedure can make you sterile. What people fail to realize, when you're young, what you do can have an impact. So, for example, you're having 1 or 2 abortions, or that one abortion, later down the line when you decide, oh, I want to have a family, when you meet that right person and you can't get pregnant, you wonder why. Because of the abortion. That has side effects. I know years ago, and this is talking from an older lady in 2011, she said she regretted having her abortion back in the 70s, because the doctors, what they were doing with minority women, they would go in to have an abortion, and those doctors would make sure that the woman would be sterile afterwards so that she couldn't get pregnant against their wishes. So imagine you going in for a procedure and then coming out thinking that everything's okay, not knowing or having the knowledge that the doctor did something against your wishes or not informing you. Because imagine if you're ending a pregnancy and the pressure that they're putting on your body. Something in your uterus has to be damaged from that procedure. And I'm not saying that goes for everybody, because I know a few that have had abortions and were able to have successful pregnancy. But then there are some that when they get pregnant, they're not able to carry that pregnancy to term, or they're not able to get pregnant at all. For the men now, you all that don't like to use a condom, and I know some of these men that are, I appreciate those men that were marching in support of women having a voice, and of the overturning of Roe versus Wade in 23 states, because I wanted to make it known that the whole United States is not supporting Roe versus Wade, only the 23 states. There's other states that women are able to travel to perform an abortion. But I applaud those men that came out in March. But then to those men that say, oh, well, you should practice abstinence. Unfortunately, we're dealing with flesh desires. Not everybody could practice abstinence. Those that could practice abstinence, I commend you. Those that could refrain from sex, I commend you. But everybody does not have that drive or chooses not, especially those that are in a committed relationship and are engaging in premarital sex. You men that don't like to wear a condom or solely depend on the pull-out method, I would advise you to refrain from sex or get a condom, because there are condoms out there. They're more expensive, where it does, when you put the condom on, you don't even feel that you have a condom on. What's going to happen is child support is going to rise. I also read an article that I did not know, that women that become pregnant and their significant other, and this goes for married women too, did not want them to be pregnant, are at higher risk of being murdered, them and their unborn child. So, if you have unprotected sex and you do not have proof that a woman is sterile or is on birth control, why would you engage in sex with her? Matter of fact, why would you even get upset that she's pregnant? And then later on kill her because you don't want the child. I'm just not understanding why we're not preventing certain stuff. If we don't want something, why not prevent? And again, I'm a mother, so I understand that parenting is hard. I'm not encouraging anyone to do abortion and whatnot. What I'm encouraging is making informed decisions. If we do not want something, it would make sense to prevent. There are men that I've engaged in relationships with, and condoms were worn, and when condoms are not worn, I make sure that I go into my stash or go into the store and purchase that Plan B pill, because I do not want to create a child with that person. Yes, the Plan B is expensive. It's $49.99. You could even get a pill that is $39.99. But that's like the generic brand, but it works if you take it less than 72 hours. I usually take it within 24 hours because my menstruals come every 24 days, and I usually ovulate on day 12 after my menstrual. And sometimes my menstrual could come every 28 days, and then I ovulate on day 14. So I do it every 24 days. There are some that are aware of when their cycle starts and begins and keep track of when they're fertile, and you have some that do not pay attention to that. That's how you have women that did not know that they were pregnant. They have irregular cycles and whatnot. Because I've had multiple children, I have to be mindful of when my cycle starts and begins. That's me. I would suggest that other women take heed, but if you decide not to do that, again, for those that are not insured or and are working, invest in plan B. If you're insured, then you need to be on birth control. Now, the thing with birth control now, yes, there are side effects to that, but then you need to play around with it and find one that fits you. Me, I take the depot shot. I don't believe in the 5 to 10 year IUD because I don't like the fact that I'm spotting. And after doing research, that birth control can have some side effects, and some of them have blood clots, and I just try to not mess up anything with my body. So I usually do the pill or the plan B. That seems to have a better effect on me and hasn't had any side effects. I've also tried the depot where I've had spotting and whatnot, but with the depot now, you have to be careful because it will, as time goes on, after 3 years, you have to make sure that you take a lot of calcium, because I know it plays a part with bone density and whatnot. But just talk to your gynecologist and they will be able to guide you in which birth control is suitable for you. Men, I would highly suggest that you be prepared if you're going to engage in risky behavior for the consequences that you will be a father or you will get an STD or STI, because I'm not understanding how you get upset and then you put all that responsibility on a woman. Both parties are responsible. You do not want children. Condoms need to be worn, or birth control needs to be taken, or you just don't engage in sex. It's sad that the men are having a say-so on women's bodies. I'm not surprised, although those Congress members were women that played a part in the overturning of Roe versus Wade, considering that one of them adopted 2 children from Haiti. So she's in support of overturning Roe versus Wade because she feels that adoption is another option. But I'll talk about adoption later. One of my videos I've talked about adoption, but it was more geared towards birth moms. I will say this much. Now that we know that those people in the White House don't really have our best interests all the time, research, analyze the situation, and just make informed choices on what you do, because we have control over what we do and how we live our lives. Despite the fact there are rules and laws to govern us, but we still have a say-so. We also are given free will. So now that 23 states have overturned Roe versus Wade, what are we going to do now in terms of sex? What are we going to do now in terms of making better informed decisions? Because I just see those states that overturned the Roe versus Wade, it's going to be a lot of chaos, and it's going to take a lot of emotional toll on women. Because again, we carry those children for 9 months. The only thing the man has to worry about is paying child support. And you have some men that are actively involved in their children, but what about those that do not want to be a parent and have to carry a pregnancy? Or if the woman decides to parent, now there are men that are going to have to be a father whether they like it or not. And if the father can't be found, that means the woman may have to either go on welfare or work extra jobs just to care for the children. And my thing is this: everybody wants to put their 2 cents into everything, but are you going to help? Because the last time I checked, being on welfare is also an issue too. Because although certain states have a certain cap or a limit of how long you could be on welfare, COVID-19 impacted a lot. So after being home for like a year, some people 2 years, now you have prices of food that has gone up. Just a few months ago, certain formulas were not in stock and gas prices have gone up. Then Ukraine war has hit and whatnot. So everything is affected. And it's like the resources are very scarce. So it's now women are going to have to find ways that do not have help and lack resources already to care for these children. And communities, there's no supportive communities like it was years ago, where everybody came together and helped each other. Maybe in those rural towns, yeah, but in these urban towns like New York and whatnot, the support system is very limited. Everybody judge you now. People mind their business, which is fine. But I feel like when you have children, it does take a village to raise besides the children's parents. Like, it's a lot. You see now, if something happens, people are quick to take out their cell phones. People are quick to judge you how you parent and whatnot. So it's like, and then the resources are there. They're very limited. Parenting classes, you now have to pay. There's not really free parenting classes anymore. And I feel like even with parenting classes, they don't really help, because if you have a child with a mental illness, how is parenting going to help? Classes going to help? Because parenting classes are geared towards children that have tantrums and whatnot. But you're talking about children that are very unique, all of them, and children. Some children come with more needing more help than some. So I feel like that does not, some of these resources don't help, because some people's situation are very unique and requires more attention than others. With Roe versus Wade, the only thing that worries me is that you're going to see more abandoned babies than before, or the majority of women will die to perform performing an illegal abortion. And adoption agencies feel that, because there was a decrease in women having children, but now there might be an upsurge. What people fail to realize, if somebody does not want to be pregnant and carry a child for 9 months, what makes you think that there's going to be an upsurge in infants? No. There's going to be an upsurge in people dying and an upsurge in infant abandonment. Now, once the child is abandoned, of course the child will be able to be adopted, but then it's like they would have to go through foster care and whatnot, and then have a family take on that child. They don't just go to an agency. But then again, when people are making laws or putting certain stuff in place, there are good and bad consequences. And with Roe versus Wade, I see bad consequences. My suggestion moving forward to women and men, just make informed decisions. Just be mindful of what you're doing. You could continue to march and protest, but at this point, I don't really see them overturning it again, at least not in those 23 states. But the states that do support Roe versus Wade, just be prepared that those states could put restrictions on when a woman can end a pregnancy. And if you know of a woman that is struggling with a child or children, try to gear them to resources, and also just be a support to someone that is pregnant, and keep your unsolicited advice to yourselves, and just be a listening ear, because I just feel like a lot of times we're quick to judge and we're not quick to listen. And keep in mind that the majority of us came from parents who were not married when they had us. They were unwed, and our grandparents and parents were able to manage. Again, years ago, there was a village to help raise children, but now we don't really have much of that village due to everybody going through their own issues. And of course, times have changed. But yes, if you know anyone that is struggling, please gear them towards resources that will be beneficial to the mom and the child. And just educate yourself. But please be mindful of the choices that you make. You are given free will, but just know that whether good or bad choices, there are consequences to those. And just be mindful who you surround yourself with, and just be very attentive and vigilant. As you can see, the world is changing and things are just coming by surprise. Things that you didn't think could happen now can. So now laws can be overturned, laws could be changed, some laws could be put in favor of people. So just be mindful and make informed, wise decisions. If you want to vote, you can vote. If you choose not to vote, just know that when you do not vote, make sure that you, instead of complaining, you do have a solution in mind, and you are writing to your Congress members and lawmakers, or those people in your city or state that represent you. So instead of complaining, just make sure that you have a solution in place for what's going on in your community. Thank you.